Thank you so much for letting me be part of this. It's been a while since I was in Salt Lake. First time I came here, my best friend, who you might know from the bands Fugazi and Minor Threat, Ian Mackay.
Yeah.
It's a friendship that's now over 50 years. And it's my single best achievement, having one best friend for over 50 years, and my single best collaborative effort. We decided enough of looking at still photos in Skateboard magazine. We're going to go to California and go to real skate parks. And so we grabbed our skateboards. This is how dumb young people can be. And we got on a Greyhound bus and went from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco on a Greyhound bus, a couple of them actually. And at one point, the Greyhound bus guy said, "I'm taking 3 hours to get away from you people. Go wander around in Salt Lake City." And so Ian and I, two city boys from the very hot, sweaty East Coast, hop out into this remarkable environment like we've been dropped onto a different planet. Huge sky, beautiful air, lots of quiet, nothing we're used to. And it really stuck with me. And then a few summers later, I'm in some band called Black Flag. Summer 1981, I'm here, I'm actually on stage. And so Salt Lake City and Utah have had parts, you've been in my life for quite a long time now. And so since Felicia mentioned Black Sabbath, I'm one of those people, very sadly for you. You'll get out of here, I swear, at some point today. I have more stories than I know what to do with, and I can tell this now. She mentioned Black Sabbath and War Pigs. It's one of my favorite bands of all time. And so many years ago, 1997, I think it was, I was on my way to my first trip to Africa. I think I went Kenya, Madagascar, South Africa, and then I was out. Anyway, before I went, I found out that Black Sabbath was reuniting with the original lineup. Ozzy Osbourne on vocals, Tony Iommi on guitar, Geezer Butler on bass, Bill Ward on drums. And I became very excited about the prospect of the greatest rhythm section besides Led Zeppelin's being together again. Knowing that Bill Ward the drummer has a fragile heart condition. How many shows is this poor guy going to be able to do? So I call Sharon Osbourne, someone I kind of sort of know. I go, "Sharon, it's Henry." She doesn't hang up, so I have a foot in the door. I go, "I have this really great idea sitting at my desk in Hollywood, California. How about you let me know where Black Sabbath is practicing? I fly out there, hang out with them, watch them have band practice, and then I get in for free for 2 nights at the Birmingham NEC, where they're going to be doing the 2 reunion shows, and I have a really good time." And she goes "Let me call the boys and see what they think." And so she hangs up, and I figured I'll never hear from her again. She calls me the next day. She said, "The rest of Black Sabbath," I've met Ozzy many times, but not the rest of them, "they've sanctioned the okay. Here's the address in Wales where they're practicing. We'll see you there." And so thankfully I've got road management and people around me who know how to book plane tickets. And suddenly my trip to Africa has a part 1 before I get there. I'm going to go to Wales and then to England and groove with Black Sabbath. And so I get up early in the morning. Tony is an assistant of Ozzy, 2 Tonys in this story. And so Tony, the assistant, calls me at the hotel and said, "You want to come over and hang out with Black Sabbath?" I went, "Yeah." And so he picks me up at the hotel, he drops me off. They're all living in this house where you can have band practice. There's a full kitchen. It's nice. And so he says, "Well, the boys will be up soon." I'm sitting in the kitchen alone, not knowing what to do. Tony Iommi walks in. And I'm like, "That's Tony Iommi. He's shorter in person too." And I'm like, whoa, I can't believe it. There's Tony Iommi standing in front of me looking for tea. I said, "I'm Henry." He's like, "How you doing? I'm Tony." I'm like, "Yes, you are. It's the best thing." And then Geezer Butler comes in, and then Bill Ward comes in. Thankfully, they all want tea. And they get their tea and they leave. And then Ozzy comes in. "What are you doing here, man?" I said, Sharon said it was cool to come out here. Like, "When?" I'm like, "Now." He has no memory that he okayed me coming out 3 days before. And then 20 minutes later, "What are you doing here, man?" And that's a day with Ozzy. And so we make tea and we sit in the front room and we watch The Crazy Professor, Jerry Lewis film. Like, "He's funny, isn't he?" I'm like, "Not to me." And so later that day, they have Black Sabbath band practice, which is a small room with a bunch of gear, guitar tech, bass tech, drum tech, the Ozzy tech, the other Tony, and me, and they go through the entire concert-length set at ear-splitting volume, and I'm sitting on the ground with the monitors all around me looking up, and Black Sabbath is around me, and I keep pinching myself, this is not happening to me. And then we make the company move to Birmingham, England, where the band is from, where they're going to do 2 nights at the 20,000-seater, sold out in advance. And Ozzy wants to watch his voice. The band really needs some practice to be ready to really bring the noise. And so they bring in other singers to basically let the guys play with a vocalist. That vocalist gets tired. Then they go, okay, Henry, your turn. I'm like, no. They go, get on stage. And MTV Germany is there filming the whole thing. And so I'm looking at 3/4 of Black Sabbath, and I'm holding a Shure wireless microphone that the other guy was singing through for hours. And they said, pick a song. And Ozzy, like Bruce Springsteen and Frank Sinatra, has the lyrics on a teleprompter. And so I said, Paranoid. Anyone can sing that one, you hope. And so the lyrics for Paranoid pop up. I already knew them. And I went, let's do Paranoid. And suddenly you hear the opening strains of, the guitar riff of Paranoid. I'm like, am I standing on stage with Black Sabbath? Am I going to sing Paranoid with Black Sabbath? That happened. And apparently somewhere in the depths of YouTube, it's on there. And the song comes to an end. They go, what do you want to do with this? I go, no, I'm good. I sang it really well. I'm hanging up the mic. I'm out of here. And they were instrumental for the rest of the afternoon. Next day is show day. And so the place is packed. The anticipation is high. There's people from Germany, from Japan, from France. Black Sabbath is a beloved band. And I'm with the sound man at the front of house sound. Best place to stand because the sound man is dialing in the sound so it sounds good to him. So I'm with him watching, and Black Sabbath comes out. The place goes nuts, and they open with War Pig, which is one of the most decisive openings that any band ever put in any song. It's like the world coming to an end with guitar, bass, and drums. Boom, doom, 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 doom. I am watching this, trying to stand up and not faint, and I feel my face. And I have tears running down my face, like Black Sabbath made me cry. Me, the tattooed guy. And so it was a very moving event, and both nights were great. And a couple of days later, I'm in Kenya, hanging out with like 7-foot-tall men who looked at my tattoos, like they would grab my arm, these Maasai fellas, they would grab my arm and laugh at my tattoos like I'm some walking Sunday funnies guy. And it was an amazing trip, but she started it. Anyway, the thing I wanted to say to you, I'm going to talk for a little while, and then I'm going to fall back to one of these chairs, and Felicia and I will have a bit of a moderated conversation. And so the topic I was assigned was music as a tool to achieve and maintain social justice. And so let me be super duper boring for like 3 minutes, and then I'll loosen up and it'll get slightly more fun. Let's go back to American history to, I think, 1890, when the great state of Louisiana enacted a thing called the Separate Car Act, which is part of Jim Crow, is part of the doctrine of separate but equal. Here's a train, here's a bus, there's seats for everybody, but your seats are back there, and the other seats for the real people are up here. Separate but equal. There's a restroom, there's a sign. You don't go in that one, you go in that one. We even gave you a water fountain, but there's a sign over it. You drink out of that one. Separate but equal. And so in Louisiana, the Separate Car Act is basically you go to your car or you're part of the car. A guy named Homer Plessy, I think is described as an octoroon. He is like many different parts. One of them is non-white, so he is a person of color in Louisiana. He has the temerity to sit at the front of a train in Louisiana. He gets busted, and this is 1892. He gets busted for violating the Separate Car Act of 1890. By 1896, you have the Plessy v. Ferguson decisive Supreme Court decision that makes separate but equal not a violation of the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. Overturned, as all of you well know, in 1954 by Brown v. Board of Education. And so the point I'm making is that was a momentous sea change in America, but did it really change much for the people on the ground? My opinion is no, it didn't. And then in 1964, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president, wants to push across the Civil Rights Act, which was bitterly opposed by the lower half of the country, the Southern Bloc. Strom Thurmond, Richard Russell. These were like marathon filibusters to keep separate but equal the law of the land, even though it had been overturned in 1954. So in 1964, I swear this will get fun in just about a minute or two. And so Richard Russell, the senator from the great state of Georgia, a good and longtime friend of Lyndon Baines Johnson, said in a press release, "We will resist to the bitter end any movement or measure which would in any way establish social equality and intermingling and amalgamation of the races in our states." Basically, we liked it as it was. And so, of course, Lyndon Baines Johnson said, like, screw ya, and he put the Civil Rights Act into law. The Fair Housing Act followed. 1967, Loving v. Virginia, which people of color can now be in love and get married. And that seems like achievement. Obergefell v. Hodges, people of the same gender can fall in love and get married. It seems like progress. It's not progressy enough to me. And it seems to me that now there are more things dividing us than ever before. And so now I can slightly loosen up, because my premise is there's many tools available to make things better in this country. And in my opinion is this century has to end better than it began. This century will end better than it began. I don't think any of us in this room will be here to see the end of this century. But the things that we will be putting into motion, that we do put in motion, that we have been putting into motion, will all but ensure the century will end better than it began. Organizations like this, a gathering like this, people like you, people like me, who never stop using whatever tool is available to ensure social justice. My method is music. And so this is the world, this is the introduction. The world I came into was 1961, Washington, D.C., I'm born. In 1967, I'm a first grader in a very nice neighborhood called Georgetown. My mom worked for the government. Imagine her frustration. Her job was working under Johnson, under Joseph Califano, trying to make public educational delivery systems work better. And she fought for every dollar. And so she sent me to Jackson Elementary School, which is about a 40-second run from the apartment in the very nice neighborhood. Most of my classmates were bussed in from some tough part of Washington, D.C. So every single day, they come out of a school bus into this beautiful neighborhood where the owner of the Washington Post lives at the next intersection. Katharine Graham's great estate is right there. You can hit it with a rock. Across the street is Montrose Park, next to Dumbarton Oaks. An amazing park, free to walk around in. This is dangled in front of my classmates from 9 to 3. And then, psych! Go back to your neighborhood, separate but equal. You go back to the scary neighborhood on East Capitol Street. I walk 20 paces back to my apartment. It's my neighborhood. It's their visitation. And so my first day of first grade, I had no idea what I was walking into. I'm surrounded by black kids, and they're putting their fists in my face and pushing me. I dependably lose control of my bladder, and I urinate all over myself in the schoolyard. And kids, you know, the humiliation of that is worse than anything else. Everyone's like, look, little white boy's pissing. And so I went to this school for 3 years, and there was one bright spot, and it was a profound lesson. My mom was pretty crazy. She's dead now, and she got a lot of things wrong, alcoholism, bad boyfriends. But she got one thing right. She listened to music like nonstop. We would go to the record store up to 3 nights a week. And so because of Iris, I listened to Pearl Bailey sing Hello Dolly over and over again, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Glenn Campbell, Barbra Streisand, Dionne Warwick, Beethoven, Brahms, Bartok, Stravinsky, on and on and on. Iris would play records all through the weekend. And when she would play records, no matter how drunk she was, she wouldn't throw dinner against the wall. She was pretty cool. And she taught me that music is a good idea. And she made me this eclectic, weird little kid high on Ritalin. And so one day in 3rd grade, I'm in the schoolyard hoping not to get pummeled at lunchtime, because my lunch would always get taken. And I would always try and save my tinfoil ball of Fritos. Those would get taken. At least someone got to eat, not me. And so in the corner of the schoolyard is this raised platform. It's an incinerator. It's like 10 feet by 10 feet. And underneath, the gate opens and the janitor would throw bags of garbage, I guess light them on fire. And so this corner of cement looks like it's an elevated platform, looks like a stage. One day a kid brings a close-and-play record player to the schoolyard. You're too young for this. It was a toy battery-operated record player. You put the record, you lift the lid, you put the record in, you put the lid back on top, which holds the needle, and the record plays. And so the kid puts on ABC by the Jackson 5, a perfect song. Puts it on, and two kids jump up on the platform next to the record player, grab jump ropes and hold the red wooden handles as if they're microphones. And they start singing, these amazing lyrics to this perfect song. All my classmates all around the elevated platform start dancing. And they're like human gazelles. They're so graceful. They're so at home in their body. And I've never been coordinated, not then, not now. But I love the song, and no one's hitting me. So I start doing my version of what they're doing on the outer edge. And so for 2.5 minutes, no one chased me. No one called me cracker. No one called me whitey, honky. No one pushed me. No one scared the daylights out of me. And we had this amazing moment of we all like this band. We all like this music. And I honestly forget what happened after that. I probably ran away after the song ended to go hide until the lunch break ended. But it was a profound lesson that when the music's on, we can get a lot of work done as far as making progress. Congress doesn't work fast enough for me. Presidents rarely impress me. But we, the people, can do really cool stuff. Like bring in a proto boombox to school with one song at a time. The proof was right there. We can get along. And none of us are racist. We're just young kids getting bad information from the parents who got bad information, from their parents who got bad information, and on and on. In 1967, Iris bought the first Reprise LP made by Miriam Makeba, Mama Africa. And it's my favorite album of hers. It's probably her most well-known. It's called Pata Pata. And she's a black woman singer from South Africa. Iris maybe heard her on an NPR station. I don't know. But she bought the record. She puts it on. And I immediately fall in love with it. Especially the song Pata Pata. And there is homework. And so tonight, when you get a chance, go online and find PATA, new word PATA, Miriam Makeba, Pata Pata. It's one of the bestest songs you'll ever hear in your life. It's perfect in every way. I heard it, and I'm like, Mom, that's like the best song ever. And she said, well, here, take the record, I'll buy another. Because I have this little record player in my room that destroys records. And so I grew up on that record, and Miriam Makeba became one of my alt moms, along with Dionne Warwick, another voice that was nicer than my mom's. And many years later, I met Dionne Warwick, and I said, you've heard this before, Ms. Warwick. You raised me. You were one of the alt moms in my life. Your voice is in my DNA. And she hugged me. She goes, it's all right, baby. And it was one of the best moments of my life. And so the profound irony of the amazing song Pata Pata, I only got to find out about decades later. When you listen to this song tonight, you'll hear the breakdown section where Ms. Makeba says, Pata Pata is the name of a dance we do down Johannesburg way. And everyone starts to move when Pata Pata begins to play. And then the song goes back in. You find out later that she wrote that lyric while exiled from South Africa. She was kicked out of the country because she stood up to apartheid. So she's talking about what we do in Johannesburg, a city that she is, by law, not allowed to come back to. And this shows you that music is this force. And she never lost hope, and she always just kept going at it. And the problems that face us today will be facing us tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. It's kind of like social whack-a-mole. And so we can never stop in, pushing back against homophobia, racism, and misogyny. That is our task, one of them. And whatever tool is in your tool belt to neutralize and push against that, you do your thing. I like music because it's fun to listen, fun to spread the word of music. In 1971, Bobby Byrd, he was James Brown's Semper Fi sideman. If you ever hear the song Sex Machine by James Brown, you hear James going, get on up, and then you hear a guy going, get on up! That guy, that's Bobby Byrd, who was always there for James Brown for years. He did some solo work, which is quite remarkable. The best song is a song he did in 1971 with the JDs as his band called I Know You Got Soul. And the longer version of that is, I know you got sold because if you didn't, you wouldn't be in here. And that is what is on my shield. And that is why I go and check out music all over the world, because I know you got sold. If you didn't, you wouldn't be in here. And I realized a version of that when I got into punk rock. Ian and I, we would go see Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Van Halen, is what was around as when we were teenagers. Ted Nugent, before he was talking between songs. But then in 1978, we found out about this thing called punk rock. In 1979, in February, the Clash came to Washington, D.C., and then after that, in April, the Cramps came to Washington, D.C., and we saw them, and as I like to say, we never got better. And so by June, the Damned had come, and some local D.C. band called the Bad Brains opened for them, which was life-changing. And then by July, the Ramones came through D.C., and I'm standing right in front of Dee Dee Ramone, watching the sweat come off his nose and chin like a freaking faucet. And so punk rock changed my life. It's when girls would talk to me. You know, I'm a weird guy. I want to meet girls, but they're these strange creatures, especially when you're socialized in an all-boys naval prep school. And so I would go to punk rock parties, and girls would walk up like, what's your name? Oh, you want to know my name? I'm never leaving! And so why were we all conversant at the punk rock party? Because I know you got sold. If you didn't, you wouldn't be in here. And that means a lot to me. And so there's a variant of funk music in Washington, D.C., exclusive to the 202 area code called Go-Go Funk, which you have to hear before you die, I'm begging you. I direct you to Trouble Funk's great song, Pump Me Up. It's all you need to hear. You'll want to hear the rest, trust me. We heard that on WOL AM radio. We parked the car, Ian and I went, our music has arrived. WOL would play go-go music all the time, and there's all these bands we've never heard of. Mass Extension, Trouble Funk, Chuck Brown, and they all play in that part of town because we are separate but equal. And the bad parts of Washington, D.C., for a glowing white boy, probably not the best bet on a Friday night to go to a place called the Black Hole and see 3 go-go bands who play from 8 p.m. till 2 in the morning. I want to see the music, but I'm afraid of being in the building and getting hurt. It doesn't make me racist. I'm just living on Earth 1 and a DC native. I know what could potentially happen to me because it's been happening to me all my life being a white boy on the streets. Like, let me see your bike. Sure, bye. I lose the bike. I lose the basketball. I lose my shoes. And so why do you want to go to a gig where there's going to be 1,100 people who might not like you because we're separate but equal, like this bad doctrine that's been foisted upon us for decades, if not centuries. And so I'm in the band Black Flag, autumn of '82. I find some money. I get a plane ticket to Washington, D.C. to visit the old hometown. And we find out that Trouble Funk, this band that's beloved to Ian and I, is playing at a disco, JB's Disco, on Wisconsin Avenue in our neighborhood. And we get, for a moment, kind of tribal and proprietary. They're in our neighborhood. We can go. Like, we'll see. So we bought our $5 ticket, and we go into JB's to see Trouble Funk. We want to see them live. Like, this is going to be great. We walk in. It's right out of a movie. We walk in, and there's like 700 beautiful young black boys and girls, and we are like the white interlopers, a party of 5. And we pay. We walk in, like, oh no. And the entire body of people turns and looks at us, and the place goes silent. You either leave, cut your losses and leave, or you go bravely forward. We chose to go bravely forward. Why? Because I know you got sold, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be in here. Like, and we walked in, and one guy walked by and said, y'all are crazy. We're like, yes, I know, sir. So we figured we stood the best chance of surviving a 2-hour go-go set by going to the front, in front of the stage where the lights are on. And so we're standing there waiting for Trouble Funk, and people are like, huh. And the band comes out on stage, and they start playing, and it is as good as you hoped it would be. It's some of the best music ever. And you can't, even a kind of spastic guy like me, there I am, moving along, and everyone saw that we came for the music. We weren't lost. Like, we knew who's on stage. And we braved an audience of our peers with all of this social injustice implanted in our minds. And as soon as they saw that we fully understood what the downside was, yet there we are. Everyone kind of went, well, all right. I know you got sold, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here. And you all are crazy. And we spent the whole night grooving with Trouble Funk, and everyone was cool to us. And so this is what's the insignia on my shield. And I've been to between 85 and 88 countries just to see things all over Central Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East. There are record stores in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and I've been in them, finding records I was after. And there's nothing that blows the record store owner's mind more than a white guy with bad tattoos holding up an Omar Soliman CD going, at last, I found it! Who is this guy? And he was happy to take my money, but you could tell he thought I was weird. Shopping for Kulthum, the great classical singer from Egypt, finding bootleg cassettes of hers in record stores in Tunisia, in Tunis, and I'm buying them, and the shop owner's loving me because I'm giving him money. I've bought bootleg CDRs and cassettes all over the African continent, all over Central Asia, all over the world, because I want to hear the music. And on the streets of Hanoi, Vietnam, beautiful part of the world for me. I always hate leaving. You just ask people hey, record store, and they're like, oh, okay, you're a degenerate, come on. And they point you at the record store. And I've always been in search of music, because if I know you got sold, because if you wouldn't be in here. And that's what drew me to go to the Desert Music Festival in 2008 and 2009 in Mali. We start in Bamako, in the capital of the country, migrate up to Mopti, about halfway between Bamako and Timbuktu. That's where Timbuktu is. You get up to Timbuktu. One time I went up the Niger River. One time I went over Dogon country in a 4x4 to go to the Desert Music Festival to see Tuareg bands like Tartit and Tinariwen in the sand. And you hang out with Tuareg men and their camels. They're complete badasses. And you'll survive on water and whatever you brought with you for about a week, and then you return. And a lesson I learned was in trying not to impact culture where I go, but try to be impacted by it. In that I try to impact culture zero when I'm in a place like Mali or Jakarta, like in Indonesia. Because you have a perfect score going in. All you can do is lose. So be polite, be culturally aware, be friendly, make sure you don't talk to women in countries where men don't approach women without an uncle or someone around. Be cool. But allow the culture to infiltrate, because you become the export item that goes back to your friends and people, in my case, an audience with my radio show, and I can bring the music back that I got over there. And I can help culturalize people who listen to my radio show, who sit through my endless talking shows, and on and on and on. And this is what I've been doing for many years, because music is the way I'm trying to establish in my own way social justice, one song at a time. And this has led me all over the world, and I've always had a really good time. Years ago, I went from Saudi Arabia to Sri Lanka. And a buddy of mine, a diplomat, he said, I know a family up in Kandy, K-A-N-D-Y in Sri Lanka, is where they grow tea. Go up there and stay with a family. So I took a bus up from the capital city up there to Kandy. I meet the family. And they have a 16-year-old son who recognizes me from my many sins on MTV. He's like, oh my God, you're that guy who's painted red. I'm like, that's me. 5 minutes to write the song, a lifetime to live it down. And so me and Ananda, the dad, we drive around and see the city. It's really cool. And then in the afternoon, I groove with a kid. I go do you like music? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, take it easy. I go, what are you into? And he looks at me like I'm stupid. Death metal. I'm like, well, right on. Is there any Sri Lankan death metal bands? He went, yeah. Like I'm dumb. I said, can I hear some? He's like, yeah. So we crank up his laptop and I'm listening to Sri Lankan death metal, which of course I become an instant fan of. So I said, let me take all of your Sri Lankan death metal off your hard drive onto mine, which I do. And I now travel with a 2 terabyte hard drive so I can spread the virus of music wherever I go. So I said, have you ever heard of the Bad Brains? He went, heard of them? I said, okay. Have you ever heard of Fugazi? He said, yeah, I heard of them. Minor Threat, you heard of them? Black Flag? He said, yeah, I've heard of them. Do you have any of their music? No. I said, move! And And I dragged and dropped at least 2 or 3 gigabytes of MP3s, and you can put a lot of MP3s into a gigabyte. And so I leave him, I go, do your thing, youngster. And I go out and sit and drink tea with the adults in the room. As I'm watching his door breathe back and forth as the Misfits are now pounding his room. He's like 16, the Misfits, perfect. And so I go out and wander around, I come back, it's dinner time, and Ananda's wife has cooked us all this great food, and I'm always hungry, so I sit down next to the kid, who's looking at me with this huge grin on his face, like he's high. I'm like, are we okay? And he said, thank you. I went, oh, for the music. I said, was any of those bands in particular that grabbed you? And he said, the Stooges. I went, oh, my favorite band. And I said, so you like the Stooges? He said, yes. I said, so what album is it? Funhouse. I'm like, oh, eclectique. And so the kid hit 16 years of age. He now has the Stooges on his laptop. I said to his father, I said, when he gets 18, he's going to kick your ass on the front lawn as testosterone will tell him to do, because the Stooges are his soundtrack. I'm kind of sorry, but I'm kind of not. And so a while later, I run into Iggy, who I've run into many, many times in my life, and he always tolerates me because I always call him sir. I'm always very nervous in front of him. I said, sir, I was in the mountainous region of Sri Lanka, and I gave this young man like some of your music, and you became like his favorite band. And so I'm so sorry to have given away your music for free. Hey, man, thank you, man, for turning a young man on to the Stooges. Sri Lanka, huh? Wow, that's great. I said, so do I owe you like $1.75 for like, you know? He's like, oh no, it's okay, man. What do you think? I'm the drummer in Metallica or something? I'm kidding! I'm kidding! Take it easy. He didn't say that. It's funny. I'm just, okay. And so I have been going all over the world with this hard drive dispensing music. I was in Thimphu, Bhutan, and I did the same thing. A young man showed me around the city for a couple of days. I go, you into music? He said, I have a band. I'm like, damn, man. I played him on my radio show. His band called Soul Talks, Soultalks. And so I go, you want to hear some cool music? He said, yeah. And so we got together at the hotel one morning and exchanged songs from his hard drive to mine and vice versa. And maybe I'm naive, but maybe this is how the world gets better. This is how things slowly change, not by a Supreme Court law, not by a president or Congress. Maybe it's just you and me doing something, not nothing, like proactively going, hey man, check this out. And even if it's a handshake or helping someone get their shopping cart back to the supermarket because they're too elderly to put it back, just these little things. And so you might say cynically, well, if songs could stop a war, how come Bob Dylan and Bob Marley didn't stop all wars with their great music? Well, what if you didn't have them? Imagine how much worse things would be now if we didn't have so many people standing up, people like you and people like me, we making things better. And so I was sent, because I'm a disciplinary problem, I was sent to an all-boys military prep school, a naval prep school. They went co-ed the year after I left. And so this is right before the Iranian hostage crisis. I'm in school and a lot of my classmates are Iranian because you can avoid military conscription if you're rich and you can send your son away. And so we had like the Minister of Finance's son at my school. And they're just kids like me, cool people and really fun. And they taught on the soccer field, they taught me how to curse in Farsi. So I could run by the ref and like Sanash Bimini, and they're like, what? I'm like, I got away with it. And I said those things to an Iranian Canadian woman on a live radio show in Toronto years ago, and she went, Henry, first off, your Farsi is horrible. Second off, I understood enough. Never say those words again around a woman. I'm like, I don't know. I learned them in 9th grade. But I became curious about Iran. And I met an amazing woman kicked out of Iran for standing up to power, Shireen Nishat, the great photographer, artist, and human rights activist. We became pals. And she said, you should visit Iran. I'm like, are you kidding? I've wanted to visit Iran since 10th grade. She goes, I got friends there still. I can hook you up. You get a plane ticket there, I'll take care of the rest. I said, all right, woman, you're on. And so my manager and I tried to get me a visa for Iran. And you find it every corner. You almost get there, and the government shuts you down. They don't want you to go to Iran. Why? I don't know, but I really want to find out. Because I know you got stole. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here. I'm going to go. And so finally we get one guy who says, okay, really sorry about the runaround. The only way you're really going to get a visa is to go to Dubai. Thinking, he won't go to Dubai. Of course I went to Dubai, and I got the visa in 90 minutes. And so a day or two later, I'm in Tehran. I meet up with the guy who got me my visa, and he said, I know who you are. You can't let anyone know who you are, because we'll both be in a lot of trouble. I'll go to jail, you'll get kicked out. So just be a publisher in a small company in Los Angeles and lie your ass off. Okay. And so by day, I have to go around the city with my government tour spy with me. I had the same thing when I was in North Korea. And he's asking me questions mostly, is it true there are clubs in America where men can go see naked women? I said, yeah, they're called strip clubs. And he asked me that like 4 times a day. So, naked women, really? I'm like, yeah, a lot of them apparently. I don't want to go in, but yeah, you can if you want. Like, I can go. I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you ever come to town, I'll drive you up to Crazy Women on Sunset Boulevard, and I'll let you Uber back or whatever. And so by evening, I would hang out with Shireen's friends. And so I met this one son of a famous actress in Iran. I said, so, like, what do you all do as young people to hang out? He goes, you want to see what we get up to? I went, yeah. So he said, he's got a car, and he drove me around Tehran. He goes, here's what young people do. They go to strip malls, and they go to food courts, and they sit around and drink tea, because there's not a lot to do. I go, do you guys like music? And they go, of course we like music. I go, is it tough to get music around here? They go, well, yeah. So we sneak things around. I said, what if someone was to give you a 2 terabyte hard drive of thousands of songs? Could you send it to your friends so they could download, and music could go viral in Iran? He said, you would do that? I said, if you'll spread the word, I'll gather the tunes. He said, bet. And so I got back to Los Angeles. I bought a 2 terabyte hard drive. And the engineer who does my radio show, he's much smarter than I am. We like lots of the same bands, but we like a lot of different music that were mutually exclusive. I was able to fill up, I don't know, like 700 gigabytes. I gave the hard drive to him. He basically answered mine. So we got it about 3/4 full. I sent it to New York, where this young man was visiting because he's going to hopefully go to NYU. He gets the hard drive back to Tehran, where it has been doing its good work. So now P-Funk is in Tehran. Diamanda Galas is in Tehran. Fugazi is in Tehran. And this is how we establish social justice. And so, one last thing before I fall back to the chairs, and the thing takes off when Felicia joins us, is I'm very responsive to emails from young people. The Washington, D.C. punk rock ethos informs me that when a young person says Marco, I must say Polo. I cannot blow you off. I cannot say I didn't hear you. And so when a young person says Mayday, Mayday, I got to answer that call. And so I got an email from a young man who said, Dear Henry, I'm 17, I'm gay, I like to paint my fingernails. My parents want to send me to recalibration summer camp to get me on the straight and narrow of heterosexuality. And they say I'm wrong and I'm bad. And what do you reckon? And I said, son, there's nothing wrong with you that your 18th birthday will not be able to change. I'm begging you, write me anytime you feel bad. You want to hurt yourself? Write me. Do not self-harm. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. You're gay. You're beautiful. You're a good young person in America. It's a tough country to be in. You got to hang loose. Adults can be wrong. I understood my parents were wrong by the time I was 6. My father was a fantastic racist. I learned to discount everything he said by the time I was in 2nd grade. And so parents can be wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. So let's keep in touch. And he'd write me, and I got the blues about this. I like this guy. I don't know if you like me. I'm like, well, this sounds like any teenager in high school. I understand those blues was a long time ago for me. And at one point he says, do you have access to any music? He said, because we're not allowed to listen to music. I'm writing you with a laptop my parents don't know I have. I bought it used from a friend. We're allowed to use the internet at the library. We're allowed to listen to the music that's at the school library. It's not very much. Could you supply me with some music? Oh boy! 2 gigabyte folders at a time I start sending to this young man. Somewhere, someone might say, wait a minute, you're hanging out with a young person. That's pedophilia. So I'm a little nervous about sending this young person hundreds and hundreds of songs, but the response is so great. Henry, thanks a lot. I love this band, Jane's Addiction, man. They're really cool. Great. Now, this goes on for months, and he's so enthusiastic, and he's giving the music to his friends. And then to bring the whole thing back around, he said, Henry, my friend at the library today said he heard about this band called Black Sabbath. Have you ever heard of them? And that's how out in the sticks this guy is. But have you ever heard of them? And I said, why, yes, young man, I have. And so I sent him the first 4 albums, and why not? And mine's blown later. And so he and I kept in touch for months, and hundreds of songs went to him. And so he said, I'm feeling pretty alienated with my parents here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I said, you know what? When you turn 18, you can make a move. And there's cities where there's lots of people like you. You're in a city where there's lots of people like you now, but things are uptight in some parts of America. But there's Seattle and San Francisco and Chicago and DC and Boston and New York, where you can be a young person and meet other young people and listen to music and have fun and be a young person. Trust me, it's over very quickly, and then the pain sets in. and so he and I kept in touch, and then one day he stopped writing me. And so, but you know, I was an asset to him until I was no longer necessary. And he doesn't have to write me a letter, hey, thanks, man. It's our duty to do something. So when the young person calls out, you know, you better send me a thank you letter. He doesn't owe me anything. He owes himself not to self-harm. He owes himself to be strong for his friends and himself. He owes it to himself to have a good life and to spread that goodness to other people and to neutralize social injustice. And this is why I do what I do. And I'm sure it's why you do what you do. And on that, without trying to keep you here all afternoon, I shall now stop talking so I can start talking several seconds from now from this chair. So thank you for enjoying me.